All right, let's get right into it. You know the feeling, right? You're looking at a brand new, super fancy PC cooler, and you see the price tag. Oof. And you start thinking, come on, there's gotta be a cheaper way to do this. And that's when it hits you, that little spark of what feels like genius, but, well, is actually a really, really bad idea. I mean, it's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Why would I spend $200 on some fancy heat sink when I have a perfectly good, super cold box right there in the kitchen? On the surface, it makes perfect sense. But, and this is a big but, physics is about to crash this party with a very soggy reality check. Oh, and just so you know, everything we're about to cover comes from a really great, super detailed article over on n.techfocus.rs. So after we're done here, if you're hungry for even more of the nitty-gritty details, you should definitely go check that out. Okay, so before we can really tear this fridge myth apart, we need to go back to basics. Like, why do our computers get so ridiculously hot in the first place? It's not just magic. It's baked right into the physics of how they process, well, everything. So think about your CPU. It's basically a brain with billions, and I mean billions of tiny little light switches flipping on and off at insane speeds. Every single one of those flips uses a bit of electricity, and the leftover energy has to go somewhere. And where does it go? Yep, it becomes heat. It's just a fundamental law of physics. And if you generate more heat than your cooler can get rid of, your CPU does the only thing it can to save itself. It slows way, way down. We call that thermal throttling, and it's the enemy of performance. All right, so we've established we got a heat problem we need to solve, which brings us right back to our genius fridge idea. But here's the thing. This plan doesn't just have a small problem, it has three. Three absolutely fatal, no going back, your PC is now a paperweight kind of flaws. Yep, these are the three big ones, the unholy trinity of bad PC cooling ideas. We've got condensation, a completely broken heat budget, and stagnant, useless airflow. Let's tackle them one by one. Okay, first up, and this is the one that'll kill your PC the fastest, condensation. You know exactly what this is. You grab an ice-cold can of soda on a summer day, and within seconds, it's dripping wet, right? That water isn't leaking out of the can. It's being pulled straight out of the air onto the cold surface. Now, just picture that happening inside your PC, all over the motherboard, on your expensive graphics card, your power supply, everywhere. And what happens when you mix water and live electricity? Yeah, it's not a mystery. It's a short circuit. Game over. You've just created a very expensive, very dead brick. All right, fatal flaw number 2. This is all about the heat budget. See, a fridge is designed to cool things down that are already at room temperature, like, your groceries. It pulls the heat out, gets to the right temperature, and then it chills out. It takes a break. But your PC, it's not chilling out. It's an active heat factory, constantly pumping out hundreds of watts of new heat. Putting a running PC in a fridge is literally like putting a small space heater in there and expecting it to stay cold. The fridge's compressor would never, ever shut off. It would just run itself into the ground, trying to fight a battle it was never built for. And the third nail in the coffin, airflow, or I should say the complete lack of it. Your PC case isn't just a box, it's a carefully designed aerodynamic tunnel. Fans pull cool air in the front, guide it directly over the hottest parts like your CPU and graphics card, and then other fans shoot that hot air out the back. It's a system. A fridge, it's just a cold, chaotic box. The air just sits there. So you'd end up with these little pockets of superheated air right on top of your components. Nothing would be moving that hot air away. Believe it or not, your CPU could actually still overheat, even while sitting in a freezing cold fridge. So yeah, the fridge is a definite no-go. So what is the right way to do it? Why do those expensive coolers cost what they do? Well, the whole secret, the big idea, is that it's not about making things cold. It's about moving heat. This is the absolute heart of it. A CPU is a tiny, tiny little square that gets incredibly hot. The whole job of a cooler is to act like a heat sponge. It sucks all that concentrated heat out of that tiny chip and spreads it out over a massive surface area, all those metal fins you see. Once the heat is spread out, it's super easy for fans to just blow it away. It's all about transfer, not just temperature. And that's exactly what you're paying for with a real cooler. An air cooler uses those amazing copper heat pipes. They're basically superhighways for heat. An AIO, or an all-in-one liquid cooler, works just like the radiator in your car, using liquid to carry the heat away to be blown out of the case. And then you have custom loops for the people who want the absolute best of the best. Different methods, but they all do the same thing. They move heat away efficiently and safely.
But here's the best part. You don't have to spend a fortune to get good cooling. Seriously, there are some really practical, easy things you can do right now that will make a huge difference in your temps and how loud your PC is. First up, let's talk hardware. Make sure you've got good airflow. The bare minimum is one fan pulling air in and one fan pushing air out. Simple as that. Next, get the right size cooler for your CPU. You don't need a monster cooler for a low-power chip. Also, if your PC is more than a couple of years old, putting on some new thermal paste is one of the cheapest, most effective upgrades you can make. Oh, and keep an eye on other parts. Your SSD and those little chips around the CPU, the VRMs, they can get toasty too.
Okay, now for some even easier fixes. Dive into your PC's BIOS and set up a custom fan curve. This just tells your fans to stay quiet until things actually get hot. It's a game changer. You could also look into undervolting. It sounds complicated, but it's often a simple way to drop your temps without really losing any performance. And the easiest tip of all? Just let your computer breathe. Don't shove it in a closed-off cabinet or set it on a thick, shaggy carpet where it can't get any air. So, at the end of the day, what have we learned? That PC cooling is a classic case of physics beating intuition. Your gut might scream, just make it colder, but the science of thermodynamics and airflow has a much smarter plan. It's all about clever engineering, not just brute force cold. Trust the engineers who design this stuff.
And I think the folks over at TechFokus RS really summed it up perfectly. The fridge is great. It's an amazing invention. Just leave it for the ice cream.
But just to throw a little wrench in things, while putting your whole PC in a fridge is a recipe for disaster, there actually are coolers that work like tiny little refrigerators just for the CPU. They're called phase change coolers, and they can get your chip to sub-zero temperatures. The pros use them to shatter world records, and it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Where's that line between practical, everyday cooling and an all-out extreme sport? That is a whole other rabbit hole to go down. But for now, if you want to read the full, in-depth article that inspired this whole explainer, definitely head over to n.techfocus.sr. They've got a ton of great stuff there. Thanks for hanging out and geeking out with me on this one.